This is Michael Tucker, and you're watching the new Legends on Deck podcast with host Brian Koss and David Conde.
Nobody's harder than me, I'm a breaker of chains, I'm living it free. Trust what I said and not what you see. Nobody keep it in order like me. I'm really a beast and I'm out in the wild. The will in my eye and I want it right now. That's a vow, and I gotta get it, the victory's mine. You trying to compete, it's wasted time. Came from the bottom, but now I'm in front of the line. In front of the haters, I turn into motivators. I don't owe them no favors and any beef and get catered. I'm on my way, doing my flex, running it up, getting my checks. I got the power, give me respect. I live this life, then on to the next. I live this life, then on to the next. Give me respect. I live this life, then on to the next. I flex different than them boys that ain't been grinding strong. You can spot a winner cause his money and his fortune long. But I'ma get my bag every day, it don't matter what you want. Make sure you check yourself, talk about me, but you talking wrong. Closer to home I can get certified OG, paid all my debt. With my flows, power supreme, come from below, it's in my genes. I talk what I like, that's real nice things. Side down before approaching the king. Muscle strong, think money and power. I hop on the track like I hop in the shower. Brick at the brick like I'm building a tower. And I'ma do that into my final hour. And my brain growing like a flower. I get the bed, I don't be in it. I'm on my way, doing my flex, running it up, getting my checks. I got the power, give me respect. I live this life, then on to the next. I live this life, then on to the next.
Welcome to episode 28 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm going to call this a special St. Patrick's Day episode. I'm Brian Koss, co-host David Conde, and our guest today is Mark Sackett. Mark is the general manager of the Royal Oak Leprechauns, and the Leprechauns are a collegiate summer ball league team in Royal Oak, Michigan, and they play in the Great Lakes Collegiate League, which includes teams mostly from Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. And we look forward. We've loved covering summer ball here at Legends on Deck. So, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here on St. Patty's Day.
Thanks.
Thanks for being a part of the show. You mentioned the Michigan, so I'm sorry about the weather, but well, you're welcome to come down anytime to Florida and hang out with us in the sun. Right. Sometimes it gets a little bit too hot down here.
Yeah, no doubt. No kidding. I'd love to be there. So
we like to start off the show by asking the guests a little bit of the history in the game. So kind of give us an idea, what's your journey in baseball? How did you become the GM of the Leprechauns? And then after that, what's the history of the Leprechauns? Like what, and then, what led to that name as well?
Sure. Well, my personal journey started, it's a generational type thing. Dad played at Michigan State, and then Dad got a teaching job at Birmingham Seahome, which is a community northwest of Detroit. Of course, he was in there, so it became part of my life. He was coaching and teaching, and I went to the same high school that he taught at. So after I graduated from high school, went on to Michigan State, and I played for 2 years there. And then the last few years, my dad needed some help coaching, so of course I would make the journey home and go help him out. So his last 5 years of coaching, I helped him out. And all through his career, he never won. He always did very well. They won league championships, but they never won the district, which put him into the state tournament and et cetera. So it was in 1988, which is about his 26th year of coaching, and he had an average team and went and played in a semifinal game to get into the districts. And somehow it was a miracle. They won the game in the bottom of the seventh. And then the next weekend they played the actual district tournament, and it was kind of funny because they played it at Royal Oak Memorial Park. And again, they've never won a district, so it was like, oh well, here we are again. And then in the first game they played, they won in the bottom of the seventh. In the second game, which would won, made the district championship, somehow they won it in the bottom of the 7th. So this was really bizarre what was happening. And then he moved on, and they went to regionals, and both games in regionals, they won in the bottom of the 7th. So it was like, this is weird. And they were coined to call the Miracle Maples back then. And then they went to the state semifinals and finals in the state championship, and they won the first game easily. Then they went to the state championship, and there's a guy playing for the other team named Steve Avery. So you may remember him from the Atlanta Braves. Yeah. So Steve was he couldn't pitch anymore. He ran out of innings, and Birmingham Seamohome ended up winning that state championship in 1988, and I got to be a big part of it. And that really what propelled me into coaching. So from there, we had a little bit of a business venture doing a yogurt and coffee shop, and then I got into coaching and high school coaching, and that launched my career. Then when my kids in 1999, I started a summer team and for my kids, and then I carried that all through their careers, and then they graduated from high school and they left, and I kept on coaching. So in 2016 was when, I think it was 2016, we got I got a call from one of the guys from the Great Lakes League who said, "Hey, we want to have a team, and we're looking for another team." I'm like, "All right, I'll do it." So we hosted this team in an area in Michigan that had some great baseball fields. It was Adrian, Michigan. Adrian is south of Ann Arbor. And so they have great ball fields. It's a beautiful facility. So we went down there. We started this team, and we were in the Irish Hills area. Our league, the league is partially funded by Major League Baseball. Every team in the league has to be a nonprofit team. So that 501c3 nonprofit. So that's what we were. But the problem was our nonprofit organization was called Michigan Red Sox. And we couldn't use Red Sox because we were Major League Baseball funded. So we had to change our name. Well, the area in Adrian is actually called the Irish Hills area. So, we had to be the Irish Hills Shamrocks, the Irish Hills something. And we said, well, let's be the Irish Hills Leprechauns. So that's what we were. So we lasted for 3 years in Adrian, and it was great, but our attendance was usually 20, 25 if we were lucky, and they were all parents and everything. And we just couldn't get the community involved. And Brian's from that area, so a little bit, so he knows that there's a lot of lakes in that area. And in Adrian, there's 2 colleges, and college summertime comes, kids book, they go home. Everybody else goes to the lakes, and we just didn't get much support there. So in 2018 is when we said, well, we got to make a change here. And the commissioner of league said, we're going to shut you down for a year, and we need you to find a new location. So I was kind of bummed about that. But at the same time, Adrian was about 2 hours from me. So we started looking. And, and we're looking around. We had a couple locations, but Royal Oak Memorial Park is located at the corner of Woodward, which is also referred to as M1. M1 is actually the first paved highway in the country, is what I was told. And it's a they have a thing called the Dream Cruise in the summertime, and it's phenomenal. It brings millions of people. Anyway, so the ballpark's right at the corner of Woodward and what we refer to as 13 Mile. Tons of traffic, tons of activity. It's just an exciting place to play baseball. That's where we were in 1988. It was always fun to play at Memorial Park. But the field was really run down, and it was tough. So the city was all in favor of it because we said, we'll put the money in to bring it up to speed. And so that was 20, like the fall of 2018. 2019 came along, and I started searching for money, and we couldn't find it. We had some people that were interested. And then in March of 2020, had a great big fundraiser planned, and then stuff hit the fan, and so we're like, crap. And then I'll never forget the story. In December of 2020, basically we were going to restart this team for 2021, and we were going to start the team over in Grand Rapids, which is on the complete other side of the state. And I got a text message from one of my former players, and it was on December 3rd of 2020. I was sitting in my classroom, just finishing up some work, and it was from DJ LeMahieu. DJ plays for the New York Yankees, his second baseman. DJ played for me in 2007 on one of our teams, and just a great, quiet, humble kid, a phenomenal ball player, but he would never act like he was something special. So he said, "Hey, I'm interested if you would like me to be, if you're looking for somebody to be interested." I'm like, I'm dying for money. I mean, he was ready to sign a big contract with the Yankees. And so I met with him at the field. We walked over things. I gave him my vision, my plan. He goes, "Let's do it." So that was great. So then, by then we were able to, he ended up lending me the money, $353,000. That allowed us to put turf and finish off our fence. We had already put about $30,000 into the new dugouts and things. We bought a bus. We did new stands. We got some extra donors. So it was great. Kind of the funny thing, because you guys are baseball guys, is that, DJ had a loan. He didn't loan the money. Well, I signed a personal agreement to it, but when he had to write a check, he wrote a check to Michigan Red Sox. And it's kind of funny having a Yankee pay a Red Sox guy. So that was kind of cool. So anyways, that's kind of our history, my personal history. And again, we revert back to 1988 when we won the district championship in Royal Oak. And here we are in Memorial Park. And the field, people don't know it, but the field means a ton to me, because it was where I had shared a really important memory with my father. So it's great. So that's kind of our story. And that's where we're at right now, is trying to go into year 3 and trying to keep on building our fan base and getting people out to the ballpark for a great time.
That's awesome. It's a great story. Which I was kind of familiar with some of that, but I didn't know all those pieces. But I'd first like to say, before I get into my question, so I was out there last summer. I was up in Michigan visiting family, and like we've talked about, when I moved from Michigan, I lived probably 15 minutes from your ballpark. So the whole operation you guys had there was really cool. I'm trying to envision this thing, right? So I see the pictures online. I'm like, okay, so I know where this area is, because I used to hang out in Royal Oak all the time. We pull up, and the ballpark's perfectly situated right there at the corner. You guys got the whole Lucky Corner brand, and the green and yellow seats, and you guys just did a really nice job the whole process. Rocky, your communications director, him and I were messaging back and forth. So when I showed up, he's like, "Oh yeah, come over here, go sit here, talk to Mark, talk to these guys." Showed me up in the booth. It was just a really good experience. And it seemed like the fans there too had it was a lot of locals that were just hanging out, regulars having a good time. There was a very, very hometown local feel to it, which I think was fantastic.
Right.
So
that's what we got a ballpark of 500 seats. So it's not like, and you are 10 feet away from home plate.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really is, if I can get people there, they can have a beer, they can have a dog, they can pizza, they can get that big league feel, and they're right there. So thanks, Brian. I appreciate that.
Well, when you started to, I want to ask you a question. When you started to grow a little bit and you started to see the fans coming out, what kind of brought them out, and what was when they walked away? What was the experience? Did they share with you? They say, "Oh, wow, we didn't know about this. This is great." I mean, what was the experience after they watched the game?
Yeah, that was probably one of the most disappointing things I had. Was our first year. I had a guy come to our last game. He said, "Hey, this is the first time we're here." I'm like, "Where you been, man?" So, we're just trying to get our word out. But every time when I see people walk away, they have fun. And, and we try to put him in-game entertainment, where in between innings, we do goofy contests, because we want to keep people engaged. And, we give our interns that we have a little bit of flexibility to do whatever. And last year they came up with a shotgun contest. I don't know how they did it, but they got each person. They had 3 people out in the field to pay $3 for a 12-ounce beer and to do a shotgun. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how they got them to pay to do it, but they did. So that was kind of special. But again, it's that, I get it. Baseball can be slow. I'm really disappointed in the shot clock, so to speak, what they've instituted this year. But at the same, because I think people go to a game, they know they're going to be there for 2 to 3 hours, and they sit there and they have a meeting, they have friends, they have a good time. And when they come to our games, I mean, they're right in the action. And when they, like you said, when they walk away, they're happy. "Oh, that was fun. When's your next game?" And so they want to come back. Another thing we do is we only charge $7, and the beer's cheap. So, we want them to keep on coming back and just have fun and enjoy the game. And, That's kind of our whole purpose. So we are receiving a lot of good feedback. Just a matter of getting them out there to enjoy themselves. So
Absolutely. Hopefully after they watch this, more and more people will come out even more.
That's right. We hope so. That'd be great.
So, we mentioned, I grew up in that area in Metro Detroit and Oakland County, in Macomb, between Oakland and Macomb. But, there were so other than the Tigers, which, I always grew up with the Tigers going downtown to the ballpark, whether it's Tiger Stadium and then they built Comerica. But there was really no other baseball experience from either a minor league or a collegiate league or something like, or a semi-pro league until after I moved, but until I learned about the United Shore League, which is in Utica, and then your team in Royal Oak. So now the northern suburbs of Detroit have baseball. What made you guys think that this would be a good location for baseball, and how does that kind of interact with what you've got the professional team downtown, and then you've got you guys out in the suburbs? How did you guys? You mentioned you left Irish Hills. How did you decide on Royal Oak?
Yeah, well, the Royal Oak, just the location was phenomenal.
Okay.
And I really, with the traffic counts, I mean, in general business, I mean, I was been involved with business. You look at traffic counts, you look at how growing communities, you look at what kind of affordability things are. And Royal Oak is, we're kind of on the outskirts of Royal Oak because we're connected with Royal Oak, Berkeley, Ferndale, Birmingham, Bloomfield. So there are so many communities right around Royal Oak. We also looked at another town, Avondale, which has, they have a nice ball field out there. We looked at, Berkeley, but Berkeley was it just was not big enough, not expandable enough. And we also looked in Clawson. Kind of interesting is Clawson had the opportunity to bring I guess it's a Frontier League team into their town at their field. But the guy that was doing that bankrupted the situation and was a real mess. And Clawson got burned. So in a sense, they turned us down, which in a sense was a good thing. So, Royal Oak, it was just great. And, really ultimately, the city was so receptive. The city officials were so receptive. Young guy who just took over as the Parks and Rec director. He played baseball. He went to Florida. He's a Florida Gator. He played locally in West Bloomfield. He went down to Florida, worked down there, had sports management or facilities management, and then he got the job in Royal Oak, and he was real supportive of us. So with his support, the city support, everyone thought this was a great thing. And again, I think the affordability aspect was a key thing for it.
Absolutely. And it really is. I mean, I asked the question, but I'm kind of thinking in my head of an answer. It's a great location because, I mean, if anybody knows that area, I mean, Royal Oak is a very vibrant downtown, big nightlife, and it's also a community with a lot of neighborhoods. So you've got families and you've got, entertainment. So it fits perfectly in that, and it's right in, like you mentioned before, right off of Woodward, right in the hub of all of that's going on. So at some points, people if they don't know about the Leprechauns yet, they might just drive by and see it. It's got that. You're right in the center of it. So I think the path that you guys got there is very interesting, but I think it worked out perfectly in terms of location.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what convinced DJ too of investing with us, because he saw there's some great opportunities. So it's great. Yeah, it's been great so far. So we're real happy.
Good.
So one quick question: do you play day games only, or do you play night games as well?
No, all of our games are scheduled at 7:05 p.m. Just kind of, we try to follow that big league model, although I know that's changing a little bit.
Yeah.
We do have one Sunday game this year at 4:00. Our first three games this year are actually at 11 a.m. because as Brian knows, we as teachers, we hate to teach at the end of the year. So we set up these 11 a.m. games, and they're really for the schools, especially the elementary schools, to bring their kids and, have them enjoy a game and everything. So this year we've got, almost a packed house for our first three games, and it'll be a lot of kids, and it'll be a lot of, the wheels on the bus music and everything that'll drive the players nuts. But at the same time, we're gonna give the kids a T-shirt. We're gonna give them food. We're gonna take care of them and make sure they have fun, because if they have fun, they're gonna go home and drag mom and dad to a game. So,
well, that's awesome, because I'm not from up there, but you guys are describing the area and how it's probably an area that everyone goes to. So if you have lights on and it's a night game and everyone, oh, what's that? Wow, there's lights. There's a baseball field over there. We need to go over there. So
right, that's exactly it. That's what our commissioner of our league said. You should turn these lights on more often and just try to draw people, because they will draw people. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not paying the bill, so I might as well flip them on and see what we get. So it'll be good. So good.
So we love, of course, we cover collegiate baseball. We've done it. Brian brought this to my attention maybe about 2 years ago, Brian, maybe a year before. Legends on Deck was created because my ex-partner, John Ginder, he's the founder of the site. We didn't want to follow the guys. So we covered the Mets. I'm sorry, I'm going around and around, but we were on a Mets site.
Okay.
And when we write about it, and I got to go to spring training, cover the Mets. I got to go cover a game at Citi Field. It was amazing. This is awesome. I want to keep doing this. But I sat there and I said, man, we follow these guys, and then they leave the Mets, and then we can't follow them anymore. So we decided to create the site to follow guys everywhere. Just write about the minor leagues and give them a platform, and guys that no one's ever heard of before. And then when Brian came on, he kind of doing the same thing, but I can tell he has a love more for the collegiate level and the amateur level. And he brought it to my attention, and when he did, you think about wow, we're gonna go from minor league baseball to collegiate. I didn't see the writing on the wall, and ever since he brought it on, I mean, it's amazing because there's so much more baseball. There's so much. I didn't realize how big collegiate baseball is. I come from New York, yes, and we had college teams, and I come to Florida, and all I'm thinking about is the major league spring training, and then I'm stuck in the corner of Florida where there's no Brian doesn't have any professional baseball up there, but I'm also stuck in the corner with no professional team that have to drive 2 hours to go. So it's not like in New York when we just half an hour at the stadium. So the collegiate side of it's just been amazing. So we've had the Carolina Disco Turkeys, which is another crazy name. Big name. We had the Savannah Bananas before they became the I'm not gonna say circus because
they are, sir.
The craziness, and got away from it. So my question to you is, can you share with us how your team goes about recruiting players for the season? The kids, local, regional, and one thing I'm gonna say is I was looking at the site and the roster, and I saw a New York kid and two California kids. So it was kind of interesting. Like, how did they find out about you guys, and how did you bring them in?
Yeah, that's good question. So the league kind of sets guidelines. We want to see about 70% of our players on our roster to be NCAA Division I players. They want to see that because we want to try to get pro prospects. We do have a lot of professional scouts that follow our teams. They're following up on players. One year we had a kid that was a local kid that was out of Oakland University who was a catcher, but he threw real well. So they draft the Cleveland Indians back when they were the Indians. They drafted him as a pitcher. And what they did is they said they said we're going to draft him. And this was I think this was back when the draft or whatever, the signing period must have been in July or something. So what they did for the month of June is he put him on our roster, and they used him to pitch for us to develop his pitching skills. Now, of course, they worked with him as a pitcher as well. So, and that was kind of interesting. So we do have that professional scout connection where they try to find places for kids to play. But really, most of our kids get placed on our team by their college coaches. I think the college coaches will have meetings with the guys either in August or September, and they'll say, what do you want to do this summer? We've got a couple good leagues we can place you in, because that's a good selling point. I know from my standpoint, for my kids, when they went to college and they played college baseball, they played at Division III schools. But one of the questions we had the coaches, what can you do, or how can you help them in the summertime to continue to, hone their skills? And they said, but all the coaches we talked to said, well, we place them in leagues or we suggest different areas, but we also kind of leave it up to the player. Does he want to go to Florida? Does he want to go to Ripken down in South Carolina? Does he want to try to play in the Cape? Does he want to try to do this? Now that wasn't for my kids. My kids weren't Division I guys. The only guys that go to the Cape would be Division I guys. So we really maintain a good relationship with all the college coaches, especially the recruiting coordinators. And then they'll call me up and they say, "Hey, I got a pitcher," or "Hey, I got a shortstop." "Hey, I got this guy," you know. And then at the same time, we're calling the colleges and trying to get our guy, or we're trying to get guys there. So this year, you say about New York and California. Well, our head coach is from Southern California. He's a young guy that wants to get into coaching, and he helped us out last year as an assistant. Now he's a head coach. So he came to Michigan. He was the assistant coach last summer. He went down to Alabama when the season was done, and he hung out with a buddy down there. And then he got the pitching coach at Northwood University, which is a Division II up in Michigan. So that's where he's at right now. Well, he's got a buddy from New York or somewhere on the East Coast there who's going to be our assistant coach this year. And he goes, "Hey, I got this shortstop from New York who's really good." So I think that's the kid who's coming over from New York who's going to be joining us. So that's where we're at. We try to pull kids from, we try to bug all the colleges. We provide host families. We've got a 6'7" left-handed pitcher joining us. He's from way down south, Alabama. He goes to a school called Spring Hill College. It's a Division II down there, but he's a left-handed pitcher, 6'7", throwing 88. So it's like, and that's pretty good, but the 6'7" guy should be throwing harder than that. So I think he'll be
a little more intimidating on the mound.
Yeah. So he'll be joining us this summer, I believe. And so we just try to get kids where we can, but we also do get the local kids, because a lot of kids, it's a grind in that college season. And when it comes summertime, if they can play good baseball locally, they want to do that. So we do get we bring in the local kids, so we get local flavor as well as the out of state makeup flavor. So it's kind of cool.
So what type of expectations do they have? Like, and what kind of experience do you provide for them? So what do you expect of them? And then what do you provide for them for experience wise?
Yeah, well, we play 6 days a week, so we're busy every single day. There's only usually one day off, and so it's kind of a grind on these guys. For our guys, they're if they do come from out of state, they do need housing. We find host families for them. So we're in a really big mode right now, trying to find host families for our players. So if anybody out there knows of anybody who wants to house a kid, let me know. But otherwise, these guys they're out of we provide an athletic training program for them in the morning, so they're busy from about 10 to 12. For our pitchers, DJ has got us connected with a guy named Mike Steele. Mike Steele's a former roving instructor for pitchers. He lives in Michigan right now, and he works out of DJ's indoor facility up here. So our pitchers will be going through a program with them in the mornings, usually from, 10 to 12, 10 to 1 or so. But if we got an away game, we're on the road by 1 o'clock. If it's a home game, they show up at the ballpark at 4, so the host families usually give them something to eat in the morning, or grab a lunch to go. When they get to the ballpark before the game, we have a snack for them, like a pregame food things. And then after the game, we provide them a meal. So they get taken care of pretty well. Now they all have a league minimum fee of $500 per player. So they got to pay something, but that $500 doesn't, we blow that in the first week for everybody. So, but we take really good care of these guys, because we want them to get better, and we want them to go back to their college coaches and say, "Hey, it was a great experience. And I learned a lot. I got better, and here I am." So, and then hopefully
you have guys who are multiply, like they come back every year. Do you have guys? Have you had anyone that comes back every year, has played with them throughout his whole college career?
Right. Not, not really. Usually it's a one and done thing. We do get about 3, 4, 5 guys that will come back for a second year. And typically those are local kids that are either, not playing as much, or they don't want to travel as much, or they're at a smaller school, maybe a Division II. We've got a kid this year who's coming back for a second year from Coker University, which is in South Carolina. We got a couple local kids. He's also from Royal Oak, so that makes sense for him. We also got a couple other kids who are, again, local kids that are just looking for that summer place to play, and they're pitchers, and they do a pretty good job, but I don't think they're pro prospects, but they're good kids. So.
Yeah, I was just looking through my article from last time. So is it Jacob Yarberry that's coming back?
Exactly. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Great. Super kid.
I talked to him, and he brought up one of his buddies last year to play, Eli Hopkins.
Yeah.
So I was talking to them when I was there, because the other guy, Eli, was from the Carolinas, and he was describing like this was a nice kind of relief for him being
Mhm.
out of the heat down there in the summer.
Yeah.
So you get those nice, a little bit more temperate of a summer. It's
Mhm.
funny. When I even go up there, I'm like a summertime. I'm like, well, the humidity's a lot lower up here, and everyone's like, oh, it's so hot, it's 85, 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, kind of.
That's right. Exactly. It's funny. But that's again, and another thing is we're a draw a little bit in the north, Hey, I'm going to
Yes.
go north to play summer baseball. So it's a little
Absolutely.
cooler, and then we have the Major League Baseball connection. So it's there's a lot of good positives about joining our program. So
Absolutely. I wanted to bring up the branding side of things.
Mhm.
So it seems like it was by accident because the Royal Oak, you mentioned that the Irish Hills is where you guys started and where you pulled the Leprechaun name, which makes total sense. But then there's like these two iconic bars in Royal Oak that almost have the same branding as the Leprechauns. So you have, I think obviously Dugan's Irish pub.
Sure.
And then I think you're a little bit further south. They may be out of Royal Oak, but the Blarney Stone on Woodward is also got that. It's a local, spot that has that same Irish pub branding. And it's like Dugan's is almost like the logo. And I got my hat here.
There you go.
I got a little sweat on it, so I've worn it around. You could tell. But I love the branding. I love the name, and somehow, even though it's an Irish Hills name, it ended up fitting perfectly, I think, in Royal Oak. What do you guys, when you guys hear, like when people hear the name or they see the logo, it just feels to me like one of those things that would attract people to the team, because minor league baseball and the collegiate league, they're like, they kind of stand out in that way where that team name and team brand kind of draws people into the teams.
Yeah.
How's that played out for you guys?
Well, it's been really lucky with it. I mean, the Leprechauns, it did. I didn't really think much of it, but it's been a really good fit. My daughter-in-law is from Southern California, and is a graphic designer, and she worked for the Anaheim Angels. She did a lot of work for the Angels, and then she was left Southern California and to marry my son, who was up University of Buffalo in February. So she left Southern Cal to go to Buffalo to be with my son, and they got married. And she was crazy, but they live in Grand Rapids right now. But she's a very talented artist, and she designed the logo, and she designed the leprechaun guy, and she did great with that. So that's been great. I'll never forget, I had a conversation with somebody from the Savannah Bananas in Barry Alderman, and it was in January of 2021, before our first season began. I said, hey, what do you guys do? What can I do? Because I wanted to pick his brain about how could we be like the Savannah Bananas, and he goes, well, what's the name of your team? And I told him the Leprechauns. He goes, oh, you got a great name. There's so many things you can do with that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we do have a great name. So that I got his support on that, and he was very helpful with giving us some recommendations, and I think so that was good. And it's fit in real well. I mean, there is a lot of Irish in Michigan. There's a lot of Irish in the Royal Oak. We said that you'd mentioned those two off of Woodward. There's another one. There's an Irish tavern that's in Madison Heights, right down the road from us. We're doing a big event tomorrow for it's called the St. Practice Bar Crawl. So we have a big 31 passenger bus that we're going to use the bus for they're practicing their bar crawls for next week, So, I'm sorry. So, and next week meaning St. Patty's Day.
Right.
Got to get myself straight there. But so that's good. And so I think there's just strong. I mean, we also are doing there's something in Detroit, a big Irish society where we're taking our bus down there. So it's a big Irish following here in Detroit. And again, we kind of got lucky with it, but we also got lucky with a talented artist, and and so it's been a good fit so far.
No, I love it.
There was my daughter-in-law also suggested she said, why don't you just change your name to the Lumberjacks? And she had his design drawn and everything else. And we almost went that. Royal Oak is obviously a bunch of trees, and Lumberjacks. Right. And I said, well, maybe we'll do like a semi-pro team called the Lumberjacks. We'll keep the Leprechauns here. So
there you go. And I don't know if I sent you that photo, but my son wore his Leprechaun's hat to school yesterday. We had field day. and his class T-shirt is green.
Mhm.
So he's like, well, I got to get a hat. And I said, well, here's your Leprechauns hat. And so he wore his Leprechauns hat at school. So we're even
That's cool.
branding down here in Orlando.
All right. Good deal.
So you know how, of course, being St. Patty's Day in March, but you don't start playing until the summer. So do you have your own like St. Patty's Day that you do a special day, just kind of like just make it in the summer though?
You know what we do? We actually have a guy that came out to our game. He wasn't there when you were there, Brian, but I mean, he's a full leprechaun. I mean, this guy's probably, I don't know, Leprechaun Joe, as he refers to himself as. And I mean, he's probably 70, 75, just an old timer.
Awesome.
And he just is goofy as heck. And and I, we probably should pay him, but I think we pay him in beer. And I think when we pay him in beer, I think I'd rather pay him in money. I'd probably save myself some money. But he's been a great guy, and we don't do anything yet, but we probably should, because in Michigan, we still got snow on the ground,
Right.
St. Patrick's Day, or maybe it's almost gone, but it's kind of tough to do much up here.
Yeah.
Besides warm up at a bar crawl or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we talked about the Summer Collegiate Baseball League and the players and everything, but you also have interns from the colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you recruit them? And then what experience do they kind of get from working with you guys?
Yeah, that's good. Great. It's been a good venture. One of the things we're doing now is connecting with a lot of the colleges that do have a sports management program, and sports management has really been is a growing industry. So Ohio University's got a huge and a very famous sports management program, but a lot of the other colleges around locally, both junior colleges as well as four-year schools, have that. We pull a lot of kids from the Grand Valley State University, which are on the west side of the state. We do they have job fairs or intern fairs, so to speak, and so I go to them and we try to find people. We try to look for we're fortunate enough where we only have to pay a few of them, because a lot of them just want to do it for the experience and get that experience. So they usually come on a non-fee basis, but at the same time, we still give them something to make it worth their while. I mean, we've got 27 home games, so it's not for in June and July. So they don't have, it's not like they're there, 40 hours a week. And our kids might work 40 hours one week, but they might work, 5 hours another week. So it's, again, they're just showing up for the home games and they're trying to get their experience. How does it help them? Well, our very first intern that we hired from, he's a radio guy. He was our radio guy. And he came to us. He was terrible, to be honest with you. But Rocky spent a lot of great time with them, and we just, hey, make mistakes. This is an internship. Do what you can. We put him on the field doing interviews, and I mean, there are times when he would just like talk to the microphone. I'm like, dude, you're talking to a player. You don't talk to a microphone. And so he really learned a lot. And now he's up in Lansing, and he's like one of the sports reporters for I think it's ILX in Lansing. He's on TV all the time, and it's just a super kid, and he thanks us all the time for what we did for him, and said, you know what, we didn't do anything for you, we just had a lot of patience with you. And he grew himself, and he just needed confidence, and so it was great to see him do that, and hopefully we can do that for more kids. So that's awesome. You give kids and the college kids, time to play and hopefully get looked at, and then give some kids interns that, like you said, never will ever probably do anything. And then look at them, that's the dream. So I don't think when he was first messing up, you ever thought he would be where he's at right now. Never, but again, he had the attitude, not only that he wanted to learn, but he wanted to put the time in, and some kids want a lot of things handed to them, but this kid, like, can I do this? Can I go do this? Where can I go here? Can I go there? And, and it was like, he was very persistent. So it was like, so where he is now, you can kind of say, well, he deserved that, because he worked his butt off to get there. So good for him. So
he put his heart into it.
Yeah, he really did. And then we had a kid last year who just wanted to be an announcer, and it's like, okay, so we said we'll do that. So then we put him on the field, and then he started announcing, like introducing little kids before the game, and then he started doing the in between inning events, and he was phenomenal. And at the end of the summer, he said, I think I want to do this for a living. And I'm like, great for you. So, so he really kind of found, he's a communication major from Michigan State, and now he said, boy, this is a new opportunity that I've got. I really think I can do some great stuff here. So, and he did. He was absolutely phenomenal. So good to see him too.
Well, it's kind of like you've got the baseball, the player side, the guys looking for their development, right? As baseball players and trying to get to that next level. And then you've got the as part of the organization, the media and the organizational and intern side. So it's a great place to go hone your skills and get that experience over the summer.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, that's all that. See, David, it's the world of collegiate summer baseball that we've opened up over the last year or two here at Legends.
I'm gonna have to travel to other states now just to get that feel now, because now it's more exciting sometimes than watching regular Major League Baseball.
Right.
I love
That's definitely more inexpensive. So,
but and I'll say one thing, because you mentioned earlier about the clock. So I've been to a couple of spring games, and I just feel like everyone's rushed. And the players are rushed, and the batters don't look up within 8 seconds, and they're rushed. And it's like, so we went to watch Puerto Rico play the Twins, and there was no rules, there was no clock. The shift was on, it was shifting all over the place, and I don't really care for the shift, but it just felt like you can just sit back now and just because now you find yourself looking for a clock. Where's the clock? Where's the clock?
Right.
But I just want regular baseball. Forget about a clock and just let it go out for 4 or 5 hours. I don't care.
Yeah.
If people don't like it, they can leave. That's what those
right.
watch it.
It looks like a real opportunity for Red Bull or Monster to start doing maybe baseball. I mean, baseball on steroids or whatever they call. Well, whatever. That's probably wrong words, but
yeah, no, I think that's an interesting. We're going to have to cover that at some point on one of the shows, because I've hearing people tell me they love the clock, and then I hear people, telling me that the clock's terrible. So we'll kind of see it. I think both the pitchers and the hitters are adjusting at this point. Hopefully they get it figured out and make whatever changes that need to be made. But last question. So this summer, you guys start the season in June, right?
Yep. Actually, May 31st, but May 31st. Basically. June.
So Memorial Day. You guys are out there. What are your expectations for the 2023 season?
Well, I mean, for 2021, our first season was just trying to figure it out from an operational standpoint. Everything was thrown together at the last minute. We've got the funding in January. The field got put together, so we were so focused on getting the field set and everything. And I didn't really care about the team, but I did have a good coach, and he did a nice job with the team for 21. For 2022, we were more of a let's just let the kids get their experiences and everything. And we kind of struggled last season from a record standpoint, and I don't think the fans noticed that, but I did. And I think DJ did a little bit notice the fact that we lost again. I mean, we won. I think we finished a tie for 4th place or whatever. So this year, when I brought the head coach, the guy who wanted to be our head coach, he came on board. I said, look, I said I want these guys to have a good experience, and I want them to have a good time and everything, but I want to win. I mean, I don't think any of us, I don't want a kid to sit the bench all summer long, but we want to make sure we get the right players and we give them a good experience and they compete and hopefully they win. So really from moving forward from here on out, that's one of our big focuses is getting good players here, becoming successful, making the playoffs and it just becoming a more, I think we're a respected organization from the way we operate the ballpark, but I want to be more respected also on the field and be, have people fear the fact, oh God, got to go play the Leprechauns. They're pretty good. They're this. So we'll see what happens there. So that's our goal.
That's fantastic. We look forward to hearing as the season progresses how things go, and we'll stay updated with you.
Great.
So Mark Sackett, the general manager of the Royal Oak Leprechauns, still one of my favorite team names. And we really appreciate you coming on, share your story, your personal story and the story of the Leprechauns. We'll make sure we get all your social media posts, your site and all the things posted up on our site along with our interview. So we look forward to tracking you guys throughout the season. And just a couple more plugs. We got some new stuff in the merch shop.
All right.
Legends on Deck. I'm always wearing this hat. I've got to order a couple new ones, but we've got the podcast logo. on some of our items. We've got the kind of our alternate logo that we have with the legend standing in the batter's box. So a few new things coming out. So we look forward to sharing that, and it's updated on our website. David.
Yeah, well, you can also see you can watch this podcast on YouTube and our site, and we've added Spotify, so sometimes YouTube conks out on someone's phone or the computer, so definitely can listen to it. So you definitely allow, and then we also want to say thank you to Easy Mortgage for sponsoring the podcast, and anybody looking for a residential mortgage, refinance, reach out to Easy Mortgage. So we want to thank you for being on the show. This episode 28. We're rolling along here. We're getting this thing going, and we're excited about all our guests have been on, and really excited about sharing your story as well. So, thank you for coming on the show and talking to us today.
Thank you for taking the time, both Brian and David. It's great, and it's great for Legends on Deck. We hope to keep promoting you guys and letting people know that you're out there. So it's great. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark.